The mystery surrounding the death of a social media influencer from New Jersey is deepening.
We just want the truth. We just want to know what happened.
Earlier this month, Ashlee Robinson, better known as Ashlee Janae, was on vacation with her boyfriend at a resort in Tanzania. Images posted online show her celebrating her 31st birthday and getting engaged to her boyfriend, 45-year-old Joseph McCann.
She was happy. This is what she wanted.
She FaceTimed me, showed me her ring. She's like, Papa, I'm happy.
But days later, local authorities say hotel guests reported a romantic conflict between the couple, prompting management to move McCann to a separate room. A few hours later, authorities say she was found unresponsive in her room by hotel staff.
He chose Africa, not Europe, not the Caribbean, not anywhere with a U.S. embassy on speed dial or a legal system that moves fast. He chose a remote luxury resort on an island off the coast of Tanzania, thousands of miles from her family, thousands of miles from anyone who knew her, in a jurisdiction where an American family would have almost no leverage and almost no voice. And then, within days of putting a ring on her finger, she was dead. Maybe that was a coincidence. Maybe grief just chose the worst possible timing. Or maybe, and this is a question that is eating this case alive right now, maybe the location was never random. Maybe a man who spent his career calculating risk and managing outcomes understood exactly what he was doing when he booked those flights. Because here is what makes this different from every other tragic story of a woman who died on vacation. The evidence does not tell one clean story. It tells two. And the two stories contradict each other in a way that nobody with badge or gavel has explained yet. The first hospital said she hanged herself. The second hospital listed her cause of death as cerebral hypoxia caused by strangulation and suffocation. Those are not variations of the same conclusion. Strangulation is something done to a person. Suffocation is something done to a person. And if those are the words in official medical record, then someone needs to answer the question that nobody in power seems to be asking loudly enough. Who did it? This is Mystora crimes. We go where the story demands. And tonight the story demands we go back to Zanzibar, armed with the details that change everything. Before we go further, hit that like button right now. Subscribe. Click the bell. Because Ashlee Robinson's family is fighting alone on the other side of the world. And the least the rest of us can do is make sure this story stays too loud to bury. Do it now. Let's get into it. There is a detail that almost every early report buried, and once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. On the night of April 8th, the night of the argument, the night the hotel separated them, the night she was found unresponsive, Ashlee Robinson called her mother. Not a text, a call. She was coherent. She was clear. She told Yolanda that she and McCann had argued and that hotel staff had moved them to separate rooms. She was not panicked beyond communication. She was not in a dissociated spiral. She was a woman on a difficult night, doing exactly what people who intend to wake up tomorrow do. She called the person she loved most and told her what was happening. That phone call is everything, because it tells us her state of mind. It tells us she was grounded enough to narrate her situation. It tells us she was thinking about tomorrow. You do not call your mother to explain a hotel room separation if you have already decided you are not going to be there in the morning. That is not how the psychology of that decision works. People in that headspace go quiet. They withdraw. They do not reach out and give updates. Yolanda has said publicly that nothing in that conversation, nothing in the tone, the pauses, the words, gave her any reason to fear for her daughter. She ended that call probably thinking her daughter was going to sleep it off and they would talk more in the morning. Instead, 11 hours later, McCann called and told her that Ashlee had done something to herself, but that she was stable.
I did receive a phone call from Joe. He told me that Ashlee did something to herself and that she was being taken to the hospital, and that he told me that she was stable.
Stable. He used that word to a mother, while her daughter was either already gone or dying in a hospital bed. When you sit with that word, stable, and you hold it next to the 11-hour gap before he made that call at all, it becomes very hard to find a charitable explanation. Either he did not know how serious it was, which raises questions about what he actually knew and when, Or he did know, and he chose that word deliberately. Her parents, Harry Robinson and Yolanda Denise Endres, were asked directly by CBS News reporters whether they believed McCann was responsible, and they did not say yes. They said they were unsure.
You believe that Joe McCann had something to do with your daughter's death?
We don't
want
have, it's under investigation and we don't know what went on.
It's under investigation, and like we said, we just want transparency. Just let us know.
Hold on to that. These are two parents with every emotional reason to name him, and they are choosing their words with surgical precision. That is not confusion. That is two people who understand they are in a legal situation and are protecting the integrity of what they are building, because they are building something. Let's talk about who Ashlee Robinson was, not just a brand, but the person, because the psychology of who she was matters enormously to understanding why the suicide narrative falls apart the more closely you examine it. Her real name was Ashlee Robinson. She was born on April 5, 1995, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She was a former college soccer player. She was structured, competitive, disciplined, the kind of person who builds things systematically and sees them through. Her platform was not an accident. She grew it intentionally to over 120,000 followers by documenting philosophy, not just an aesthetic. The soft life movement she participated in is rooted in the idea that Black women deserve ease, peace, and abundance without having to justify it. Ashlee did not just post about it. She lived it as a deliberate daily practice. People who knew her described someone who communicated her feelings openly. When something was good, she said so loudly. When something was difficult, she did not disappear. She talked. She processed out loud. She stayed connected. That personality type, expressive, relational, outward-facing, is about as far from the psychological profile of a secret suicidal ideation as you can get. People who are quietly planning to end their lives withdraw. They go silent. They start giving things away. Ashlee was doing the opposite right up to the moment she went silent forever. She had been with Joe McCann for approximately a year and a half, according to her parents. McCann is 45 years old, the founder and CEO of Asymmetric Financial, a cryptocurrency hedge fund backed by serious venture capital names, including Mark Andreessen and Chris Dixon. On paper, he is a power player. But in 2025, 1 year before this trip, his liquid alpha fund collapsed, losing approximately 78% of its value in a single year. He issued a public statement. He reframed it. He moved on in public. But here's what psychology tells us about people who have built their entire identity around being in control, around being the smartest person managing the risk. When that collapses, something shifts internally that is not always visible until it is. A man who publicly positioned himself as a financial power player, privately hemorrhaging credibility, now on a luxury trip with a woman whose entire brand was built around the abundance and ease he could no longer convincingly provide. That is a pressure cooker. And we know it boiled over on the night of April 8th because other hotel guests heard it. That is the detail that reframes the conflict. The separation was not quietly initiated by management. Other guests reported it first. Strangers in nearby rooms were disturbed enough by what they heard or saw to alert staff. A conflict that registers to strangers at that level is not a quiet disagreement between two people working through tension. Something in that villa was escalated, alarming, and loud enough to reach people who had no stake in the outcome. And then Ashlee called her mother and said she was okay. Now we come to the behaviors that followed. Because behavior after a traumatic event is one of the most revealing things in any investigation. And what McCann did in the days after Ashlee's death is something her family has explicitly drawn attention to. His Instagram post featuring Ashlee, deleted. His Facebook page, no trace of her. His X account, active, posting about artificial intelligence and business. No public acknowledgement of what had just happened. The family has confirmed that since that one phone call to Yolanda on April 9th, McCann has gone completely silent. He has not reached out. He has not offered help. He has not made a statement. He has not expressed grief in any public or private direction that the family has been made aware of. It was not McCann who confirmed Ashlee's death to her parents. It was the hotel. The resort staff told the family that Ashlee Robinson was gone. The man who proposed to her on a safari, who put a ring on her finger in front of a rare albino lion against an African landscape, did not tell her parents that their daughter had died. The hotel did. Harry Robinson has described the experience of this investigation as trying to push through doors that stay locked. He and Yolanda traveled to Washington, D.C. in person to go to the embassy directly because the calls and the emails were producing nothing. They sat in those offices. They pushed. They are now working with legal representation in the United States and coordinating with the State Department. They want one specific thing more than almost anything else right now: the security footage from the Zuri Zanzibar. Harry said it simply: if the footage exists, it tells a story. The silence around whether that footage has been secured, whether it captures anything from the night of April 8th, is something the family is watching very closely. To cover the cost of all of this, the legal representation, the travel, the repatriation of Ashlee's remains, Harry Robinson launched a GoFundMe with a $50,000 target. Tens of thousands of dollars have already been raised. A family is crowdfunding to bring their daughter's body home. The man who was supposed to marry her has said nothing and contributed nothing visible to helping them. The Zanzibar Ministry of Tourism and Heritage issued a public statement urging patience while authorities conduct their inquiry. The BBC covered this case. The Guardian covered it. Cardi B spoke publicly about it. This has become a global story, which creates its own kind of pressure on institutions that might otherwise prefer to let it quietly close. McCann's passport has been confiscated by Tanzanian authorities. He is being held and questioned as a witness. Under Tanzanian law, authorities can detain travel documents without formally arresting someone when a criminal investigation is active. He cannot leave the island. He is there. He is being questioned, and he has said nothing publicly. An autopsy, assisted by a coroner dispatched by the U.S. Embassy in Dar es Salaam, was expected to be completed around April 15th. As of now, no official findings have been released to the public. The investigation is expected to take several more weeks, according to Zanzibar's Deputy Police Commissioner Zuberi Kembila. But here's the detail that makes all of that waiting feel unbearable. One source in reporting, and it requires official confirmation before we treat it as the final word, states that a second hospital involved in Ashlee's care listed her cause of death as cerebral hypoxia caused by strangulation and suffocation. Not hanging, not self-inflicted asphyxia. Strangulation and suffocation. The brain deprived of oxygen because something or someone cut off the supply from the outside. That is not a clerical variation. That is not hospitals using different terminology for the same event. Strangulation is an act. It requires a force external to the person. And if that is what a medical examiner recorded in an official document, then the question is no longer just whether the suicide narrative holds. The question becomes who was in that room, who had access, who had motive, and who, after all of it, called her mother 11 hours later and said the word stable. The family's own statement, which described Ashlee's passing as suspicious, which refused explicitly to accept the suicide narrative, which asked McCann publicly to be truthful, may be shaped by information they have that the public has not been given yet. Because families in grief who want to protect their daughter's memory do not use the word suspicious in a legal statement without reason. They do not ask a man to be truthful without knowing that the current story is not the truth. Here is where we land. Not theories, not speculation. Documented. Source facts laid end to end. Ashlee Robinson called her mother the night she died and sounded calm and grounded. 11 hours passed before McCann contacted her family, and when he did, he said she was stable. 2 different hospitals recorded 2 different causes of death, one pointing to self-infliction, one pointing to external force. Hotel guests heard a conflict serious enough to alert staff. McCann deleted her from his social media, went quiet, and has not spoken to her family since. His passport is being held. The investigation is active. The autopsy results are being withheld. A family is crowdfunding to fly across the world to fight for answers that no institution is freely giving them. And the man who chose Africa, who chose a remote island in a foreign jurisdiction, who proposed in front of a rare albino lion and then watched all of it disappear, is sitting in Zanzibar right now, being questioned as a witness, saying nothing. So I want to ask you something directly. And I mean this as a genuine question, not a content hook. When you take everything you now know, the phone call to her mother, the 11-hour silence, the 2 different cause of death descriptions, the deleted photos, the behavior that followed, what does your gut tell you? Do you believe a woman who called her mother that night to say she was okay decided, in the hours that followed, to end her life using fabric from her own dress inside a wardrobe? Or does the weight of everything stacked in this case point your mind somewhere else entirely? And this one, the one that I think matters beyond this case, beyond this family, beyond this island. If Ashlee Robinson had never built a platform, if there were no 120,000 followers, no Savannah Britt willing to go public, no community that refused to let the story die, would we be here right now? Would her parents be on CBS News? Would the BBC have a file on this? Would McCann's passport be confiscated? Or would he have walked onto a plane days ago and returned his life? The answer to that question tells us something deeply uncomfortable about who gets justice and why. And it tells us exactly why cases like this one have to stay loud. Tell me your theory in the comments. Tell me which detail sits with you the most. Tell me what you think was in that hotel room between the phone call and the moment the staff found her. And if you are not yet part of this community, subscribe to Mystora Crimes right now. Hit the bell, because we are not done with this case. We never are until there is truth, and Ashlee Robinson deserves nothing less than that. Stay close. We will see you next time